I took Buffalo from a 69 overall to a 94 overall in just one offseason, and today I'm going to teach you how you can do it too. But I'm not just going to show you how to rebuild small programs. This is a fully comprehensive guide with the best strategy to rebuild any program at any size. But first, here are all the topics that are going to get covered and the timestamps associated with them. So feel free to take a screenshot, pause it, do whatever you need to do to make sure whenever you go to rebuild your next team, you can get the information that you need whenever you want it. So let's start off with small school recruiting. These are your 0 to 2.5 star teams. So the first thing we're gonna wanna do is go to our pipelines and try to find the very best pipeline that we can. Now, a quick bonus tip, if you know that you're not gonna be changing schools during your rebuild, make sure that your coach has a pipeline at whatever state your school is located in. So if you're Sam Houston, make sure it's in Texas. I think. Sam Houston in Texas? I don't. Anyways, you can see here with my San Jose State rebuild, I made our pipeline Southern California, which made it a 3-tier pipeline. And that's really going to be helpful for the strategy that we're going to be using moving forward. I don't know that cadence. What's that cadence I'm doing? I don't know. Just please bear with me. So now that we know that California is a 3-tier pipeline for us, what we're going to do is we're going to leave my pipelines and we're going to go exclusively to California and put onto our recruiting board every 4 and 5 star that we find on the list that's open to coming to San Jose State. Now, since we're a 2.5 star school, we only have 675 hours at this stage of recruiting. So we're not going to scout anyone. We're literally just going to offer everyone on our board a scholarship. Now, before we get into in-season recruiting, I have to talk to you about coach builds. I personally think the talent developer is the most overpowered coach archetype in the game. If you don't know what it does, basically at tier 1, every single player that you get drafted, the players behind them on the depth chart get a boost. So notice I didn't say in the first round, third round, it's so different from last year. Literally, you can have an 88 overall that manages to get picked up in the 7th round and you still get a skill points boost for everyone behind them on the depth chart. But what's even crazier is it's stacked. So let's say that you have 5 corners and 3 safeties that get drafted. Every corner and safety behind them on the depth chart is going to get that stacked bonus. It's actually insane. So that's the kind of coaching build that we're going to go after. And that's what I would recommend for you in almost every build, unless you're doing like I have 1 or 2 years to win a national championship, in which case I would say go to tactician. So to unlock talent developer, we need to put our points into motivator and recruiter. So what I would recommend is starting off with a motivator and then getting the first 3 tiers of motivator and then unlocking recruiter, because the 20 points that it takes to unlock recruiter will count towards the 50 that you have to spend in recruiter to be able to unlock talent developer. And the reason why that's so important is we're not going to put any points into recruiter at all past the 50 that we have to put in there. Now, I will put points into elite recruiter later on whenever we talk about the big school builds and like how to actually land like the very best recruits, but recruiter really doesn't do anything for you this year. Like, it makes scouting a little bit faster, which like is helpful whenever you're a bigger school. So like maybe later on down the road, but I prefer to save as many coach points. In fact, this is what I would consider the best coach build for very early stage. And whenever you don't have talent developer unlocked, this is what I would do. Trust me, it might seem weird. Just get to the end of the video. It will make sense. You'll see what we're able to do with talent developer. It's nuts. Now let's move on to in-season recruiting. Now, if you're a small school, you have so few hours that scouting becomes literally vital, but not the scouting you're thinking of. I'm talking about scouting players that literally have 0 offers. 4 and 5 star guys that have no offers is exactly what we're looking for. And in our case, we only have 500 hours, so we can recruit 10 guys. So we're looking for 10 4 and 5 star players, no matter the pipeline, no matter where they're coming from. The whole pipeline thing was to try to give us the best chance possible to find guys that maybe didn't have offers, but we're getting rid of literally everyone on our board that does have an offer. They gotta go, because we got 0 chance of doing that. We are not winning recruiting battles, okay? You are, let me make this point abundantly clear. If you are a 1-star, 2-star, even 3-star school without elite recruiter, you are not beating any school for recruits. It's not happening. If Georgia decides that they want one of your guys, even if they're not going to play him, they just don't want you to have him, it's cooked. It's cooked. Now, you can keep guys with 1 or 2 offers on your board. I know that some people do that, and it's really like a just in case we have spare hours to throw at them. You're not going to get them. If you do get them, send me a screenshot of it. If you're a 1 or 2 star school, what winds up happening is week 6, week 7, the schools that offer them a scholarship go, okay, it's time for us to land this recruit, and then they come and pluck them from you. So you wind up wasting those hours anyways. And so what I like to do is I like to get everyone off the board that I'm not going to put hours on. So I like to keep my board really clean so we can have an intense focus and make sure that we know exactly where all of our recruits are at throughout the recruiting process. So once we found all of the 4 and 5 star recruits with no offers, put 50 hours on them. Listen to me. If you are a 2, 3 star, 1 star, 0 star school, do not split hours. Put all 50 onto the recruits that you want. Okay, putting 25 hours onto a guy just so you can stay in first on them is a vanity stat. One of the big schools is going to come along and they're going to take them. It's like having a beautiful out of your league girlfriend that nobody else is really in the market for. And then Klay Thompson comes along. He sees the vision and you didn't marry her whenever you had the chance. It's over for you, buddy. She's going to Georgia. All right. So make sure that you put 50 hours on the guys to try to get the biggest lead that you possibly can when you have the chance. Anyways, once you put 50 hours on all the guys that you're actively recruiting, you can go ahead and advance the week and move on. Now, this is the biggest week in terms of decision making. From here, it's basically all luck. So you can see here that the guy that we put our leftover hours on is getting pursued by Arizona. So we're going to remove those points and put them on a Judd here because even though he has 3 offers, they're not actively pursuing him. So maybe we'll get a chance. It's probably not going to work out, but that's just what I'm going to do to give ourselves the best chance to land each recruit. And that is the mindset that I'm trying to teach you. It's not necessarily right or wrong, perfect decision, not perfect decision. We're probably not going to get a lot of these guys on the board, but we're trying to give ourselves the best chance to land 4 and 5 star recruits as a 1 star school, or in this case, a 2.5 star school. So now we leave those 50 hours on all the guys that aren't getting pursued and we keep simming until they hit top 5, which happens about week 4. And you can see here that we have a deal breaker on one guy, which is why I said luck kind of comes into play, because if you're simming the games, you can't really control playing style deal breakers. So it happens, but we should be okay though, because we're coming off a bye week and that can really affect playing style deal breakers, especially ones like lurker or thumper linebackers that have to do with just total tackles. You got to think if you're coming off a bye week, you literally got 0 tackles last week. So you should be able to regain ground on those playing style deal breakers if they have an archetype like that. But you can find the playing style deal breakers here on this My School screen. I should be scrolling through them here now. This is where you find them. And so you can figure out what you need to do if you are playing the games to get that deal breaker up so you can continue to recruit the guys that you put all these hours into. But you can see that we have a massive lead on all these guys. And that's exactly what we were looking to do. And that means we should land a couple of 4-star recruits as a 2.5 star program. Now, let's talk about soft sells and hard sells. You can see here with Victor, we know 2 out of 3 of his ideal pitches. Now, sometimes you can find that third one. If you get lucky, you can go over to his main page and you'll see his like actual main deal breaker, and that'll be the third one. But in this case, that's not what's going on. So we're going to have to use soft sells to try to figure out what his hard sell is. So we're going to go to soft sells and we're going to be looking for the pitch that has those 2 green check marks and 1 question mark. Now, I typically will do 2 soft sells just to make sure that we find his hard sell. But in this case, we should not hard sell or soft sell. How do I know that? Well, firstly, we have to give a huge shout out to Max Plays College Football, not just for helping me to figure this out, but also for helping the entire College Football 26 community. He does a ton of work with statistics and like really gets into the nitty gritty and the data analytics side of whether or not you should or shouldn't be doing things in college football. So this is all his work. He deserves the credit. If you like stuff like this and you like to understand the why and the how, you need to go and watch his channel. You need to go and subscribe to him. He literally is the GOAT. And hopefully if this video does wind up doing well, that we can further platform him, because he is the type of content creator that we need in our community, because he genuinely does great work and he helps advance college football forward to help us have more fun playing the game so we can focus on building teams instead of like, what should I do? There's too much anxiety. I hate this game. I'm out. So huge thank you to Max, not just again for helping me with this, but like genuinely what you do for the college football community. Shout out. I'm doing tricks on it, but if there's anyone who deserves to have tricks be done on it, it's Max. So I'm going to keep it pushing, but that's where I got the information from. So to simplify what Max has done for the community down, basically at an A+ tier, you can assign a point to it. So you can assign 13 points to A+ and subsequently subtract 1 all the way down to F, which is a 1 point. So I'm not going to pop it up on the screen. I'm not going to lie. That's a lot of editing. So just like write down A+ and put 13, and then do A and put 12, and then A- and put 11, and then go all the way down until you get to F to 1, and then make a little notebook. I have a notebook right here. I have a notebook, and every time I'm doing a rebuild, I'm like, yep, that's going to be this. And at this point, I literally have it memorized. So like, I might be nerdy with it, but it helps you know whether or not you should hard or soft sell. Well, what's that cutoff number? We're looking for over 20 points. So if you're at 21 points and higher, hard sell. Max says that 19 to 20 is the gray area you can kind of sell. I never do that. If I am at 21 points, I sell. Below 21, I do not hard sell. I just send the house because I don't want to run the risk personally. Now, you can try to do that, but I like to do 21 and up. So again, shout out to Max. I know I'm doing tricks on him. He deserves it. So in the situation that we're in, our grades only add up to 14 points. So there's absolutely zero chance that we should sell anyways. So we're just going to send the house on him. And now that's probably going to be the case with the majority of your recruits. So really after like week 0, week 1, after you've assigned 50 hours to these guys, you can just let it rock. But to further reinforce this idea, here is one recruit that his grades add up to 23 points. And so we're actually going to hard sell him. Even though we're a small school with bad grades, we can hard sell this one guy. Now, what I will say is, next week we'll advance and you'll see that that playing style grade has actually dropped, and that puts him below the threshold of 21 points. So it's something that you need to make sure that you're constantly checking and making sure that, like, especially if you're a small school, if your grades are right on that line of 21 points and playing style or a variable grade is involved in your sell, that you're not falling below that 21 point threshold, because no matter how big your lead is, you're never going to be able to land these guys if you're not getting either the hard sell bonus or the send the house big jumps that you could be getting. So please make sure that you're staying up to date with those, especially as a small school. It's not that hard. It might be confusing at first, but just get some reps. You'll be good. Oh, also make sure to pop the DM on the guy if you're doing a hard sell. If you just do 40 hours, oh my goodness, do not worry about the arrows. I have a lot of people ask me, yeah, what about the arrows? What about the arrows? Bro, don't count the arrows. Like, look at the bar after the week and see how it's moving and be like, okay, that was good or it was bad. You'll be able to tell. Like, if you shouldn't have hard sold, like, or something changed, you'll be able to tell, because instead of a big old jump like that, you'll have a little teeny tiny jump like that. And I know what that's like. I was born with one, okay? It's not good. You'll know if it's bad, right? Like, you're not getting compliments on it. All right, that's neither here nor there. I gotta lock in. Now, what about visits? Visits in this game are so strong, especially with the CEO tier, where you can have 8 guys visit. But whenever you're a small school, I don't like to take any time off of any guys, because a 4-star in the hand is worth 2 4-stars in the bush. So if you're potentially about to lose a guy because Georgia gets involved, USC gets involved, and you're like, oh, I have this bright idea. What about the guy over here who literally has no other schools interested in him? What if I just took 50 hours off of him and then got a visit with our cat over here? Maybe we can win this guy. We can get him back from Georgia. Don't do that. Do not do that, because what's going to happen is Georgia's going to take this guy and then go, oh, wait, what about this guy over here that only has 1 offer and we just stole his other recruit? Let's go get him. And they will. They are Klay Thompson, okay? Put a ring on it. Do not get those 50 hours. Like, if you get that guy signed and then take those hours and maybe you can get a visit in, that's great. But the absolute worst case scenario must be thought about. You could get that recruit on that visit. Let's say you get 3 or 4 guys on that visit. You invest all those hours and you only have 500 in this situation, and then you lose the game. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You would lose recruits. And now if you don't agree with what I'm saying, just wait till the end of the season. This is all happening as I'm recording this video. I'm literally going through it and doing it so you can see. Spoiler alert, I get 6 4-stars. Okay. So it's not that I'm the best at this, but my strategies work, right? So I personally don't like to use visits early on. Now, whenever you're a bigger school and you got 1,300 hours, bro, throw visits. Throw visits. I love it. But right now, I prefer not to use visits until we can. And it's like free hours, right? So again, the very next week, whenever we advance, Cameron Rice has his playstyle drop to a C-. So this is why it's so important that you make sure you're checking your school grades. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it is important because your strategy, you might not be landing recruits. And it's like, man, what's going on? Like, I'm hard selling when I'm supposed to hard sell. I'm sending the house when I'm supposed to send the house. What the heck? And it might be something like that change out from underneath you, and you need to make sure that you're recalculating. Again, you'll be able to tell. Like, if it's like, why is this not working? Recalculate your grades. Trust me. So some other teams are starting to get involved in these races. You can see that they're adding visits. And this is about the time you might want to add visits yourself. But think about it. If you take the hours off those guys that are uncontested, like I said, you might lose them too. You don't want to do that. Like, just cut your ties. Just sit there, thug it out, look at it, know that you're losing your girl. It is what it is, my boy. She was never yours in the first place. You know what I mean? She was always going to go to Georgia. What am I? Okay. So Officially in week 8, Georgia has passed us on Manny. So we're going to take Manny off the board and then use those hours on a recruit that we've already lost to schedule visits on the guys that we want to make sure that we get. So like I said, I don't hate visits. I love visits, but I don't like taking hours off of guys to get visits. Like, especially if we're still in the mix for them, don't take the hours off. If you lose a guy, take the hours off, then you can schedule visits, right? We want to play it safe. We want to be conservative. We want to make sure that we get as many guys as we can without losing guys in the process. Now, let's talk about what cells to use when you're scheduling visits. What I like to do is I like to use static grades. What does that mean? So a grade like playing style is a variable grade. So that means week to week, that grade is going to change. So you might be an A+ this week, and then you might have 2 bye weeks before your visit. And it's like, bro, what the heck? How is this a B+ now? Right? So in the situation where you're a bad school or a school with bad grades, it might be the case where you have to use playing style and just hope for the best. But if you're in a good conference, use conference, right? Your conference prestige is not going to change. Your coach prestige is not going to change. So if you have a playing style grade that's a B+ and you have a conference grade that's a B+, use the conference prestige, right? It's not going to go anywhere, especially if your conference prestige is an A+. Use that literally every single time because it's not going to change. Now, we also want to try to pick a game that you're going to win. That is obviously incredibly important. So I picked Air Force over Hawaii here because if we lose, there's much smaller consequences because Hawaii is a rivalry game. So we get the same boost if we win, but we get less consequences if we lose. So you really want to be aware of that whenever you're going to schedule the games. Like, am I going to win this game? And if I do win, what do I get? And if I lose, what are the consequences? Also, since we scheduled this game later in the year, it gives you a couple extra weeks to use those 50 hours to schedule more recruits. And you can see on this page how many complimentary visits that you're having and then how many competitive visits that you're having. So you want to stack complimentary visits. So that would be like having a left guard and a running back on the same visit, or a wide receiver and a quarterback on the same visit, because they get a big bonus to their visit grade. So let's say that you get just one bonus grade for having a quarterback with a running back or a quarterback with a wide receiver, and then you blow out the team and you get plus 75%. That's 1.75 points towards how much better of a visit they could have. So if I'm speaking hieroglyphics here, try to get as many green arrows on the visits as you possibly can. And the best way to do that is to have offensive guys go with offensive guys and defensive guys go with defensive guys, but make sure that it's not like the same position. So you don't want cornerbacks with cornerbacks. You don't want quarterbacks with quarterbacks. So our coaches hit level 10, so I can finish out our coaches build in week number 9 to get us ready for talent developer. And like I said, a lot of luck goes into this. We're simming well right now, so our coach is leveling up faster, but sometimes you might not sim well. So that'll also affect your star grade. So whenever we go into the off season, our 2.5-star team might fall down to a half-star team in some cases if you sim really poorly, but this strategy will work regardless. You'll just really have to be on your P's and Q's if you lose those hours. And in week number 11, we're going to walk away with our first 4-star recruit just to show you guys that this strategy really does work. I'm doing this as I'm recording this video. I'm going through and like actually doing the recruiting strategy. This isn't just from a past rebuild where like I already know that I'm doing well. I'm doing it again so we can see it together. But we did wind up losing to Hawaii, so we did make the right choice to choose Air Force because that's what's going to get a lot of these guys to sign, is making sure that we didn't lose. Now, you could say it's a lucky guess, but again, it was a calculated decision that I talked about before it even happened. Now, a lot of these recruitments are going to come down to the wire, but we're going to walk away with 4 or 5 5-stars, which I'm absolutely overjoyed about as a 2.5-star team. And only having 4 or 5 guys on the board really works with our strategy of farming the transfer portal that we're going to talk about very soon. So that's why I don't like to scout for 3-star gems. I think it takes a lot of time. And honestly, I like to use the remaining spots for the transfer portal, and you'll see why soon. So now let's jump to coaches. We're almost always going to fire our coaches in year number 1 because I really don't want tacticians on our team. Now, if you have a coach with like a special archetype, let's say that they're a talent developer or a master motivator, you might think about keeping them, but for the most part, we're going to fire them. And the reason why we do that is you can get some insane pulls in year number one. People get fired that are insane coaches. Like here, we got BJ Fleck from Minnesota, who's going to be a level 44. So he basically is going to come in with all those head coach abilities that our coach doesn't have to help us land people in the portal, which is so helpful. It's so helpful. You can get some crazy coaches. Like I got Sam Pittman in one of our rebuilds, who is the head coach of Arkansas, who is a talent developer. So we were able to get some NFL draft bonuses onto our depth chart before I'd even unlocked talent developer, which helped us with the rebuild that we were doing. And like I said earlier, at National Signing Day, we were able to land 6 4-star recruits in year number one, and we still haven't even gotten to the transfer portal yet. And as a 2.5-star team, we have 6 4-stars. Absolutely insane. Anyways, during players leaving, this is, look, if they're on the board, they're probably gone. Especially with how small of a school we are, we're not going to have a lot of time or a lot of pitches to try to get guys to stay. So we're going to go after the highest rated guys with the best development traits. So if you're trying to figure out like if 280 overalls are on the board, just go for the best development trait. You can see it in the bottom right down there. If they're impact, star, or especially elite, try to get them to stay. But for the most part, they're going to leave. So now that we're at the transfer portal, we're going to target the best players that we possibly can that have 2 deal breakers: playing style and playing time. Listen, if you try to recruit guys that have championship contender or pro potential deal breakers, you're going to have a bad time. Now, we only have 600 hours, so that means we can only put hours on 11 guys if we account for all the scholarships that we have to give out. And that's okay because we're going to backfill the rest of our guys in the coming weeks. But it's important to note that we're not going to get all the 4-stars that are on the board here. We really have to get lucky and have a lot of these guys go unoffered from other bigger schools. And that's why we target playing time and playing style, because we can get rid of teams like Georgia and go against teams like Kent State, and that gives us a much better chance of actually landing one of these recruits. So again, we're gonna put 50 hours on as many of the top guys as we possibly can. Then whenever we sim pass this week, all the sauce is really gonna start. Now, we really want to be realistic with ourselves. Like here with Tennessee, we're not going to beat them for Duke Watson. So we really need to be realistic because we want to sign 35 guys this offseason. So unfortunately, we didn't keep any of the 4-stars, but that's okay because the 3-stars in the transfer portal are so OP. Think about it. If you sign a 5-star elite dev recruit out of high school, and then after his freshman year, he decides to go into the transfer portal, what is he going to be categorized as in the transfer? That's right. He's going to be a 3-star in the transfer portal. So that's one of the things that you want to take into account, right? So think about freshmen that are leaving Georgia, leaving Alabama, leaving USC. And those are going to be guys that were really highly rated recruits coming out of high school. But you can take it a step further. Think about sophomores that maybe had a playing time or playing style deal breaker that left their first school, maybe went to Troy, maybe went to the University of Louisiana Monroe. Those could be guys that used to be 5-stars, then got categorized as a 3-star, went to a smaller school, and now you can pick them up. So do not undervalue the 3-stars that you can get in the transfer portal, especially if you're developing guys the way that you should be using the talent developer archetype. So as you can see here, I decided to take a freshman from Texas instead of a higher rated sophomore from Middle Tennessee. Now, 9 out of 10 times this is going to be the right choice. It's not going to work literally every single time, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you the highest percentage chance of having the best rebuilds possible. This is not a science. I am but a humble content creator. You know, I'm just trying to give you the very best opportunity to have the most fun playing the game. And that's really what all of this is rooted in, is it's giving yourself the best chance to get the best guys as early as possible. So if you have kids or you have a job or you have something that's holding you back from being able to play the game as much as you would like, you can utilize these strategies to make sure you're still experiencing that solid progress. And so you can do more than just 1 or 2 rebuilds. Maybe you can have 4, 5, 6, 7 rebuilds over the life cycle of College Football 26. Now, our goal for all of the 35 guys that we have on the board, all these 3-stars, is not to sign them, but it's just to be in first place, because if we're in first place on all these guys, they will wind up signing with us on National Signing Day. So what I like to do is I like to offer all the guys scholarships and then sort by national rank, because it's just sorted by their actual overall, and then assign 25 hours to the highest rated players so we can secure them first. And then again, we go in subsequent order. Now, if you lose a guy doing this process, it's okay. Just go find another 3-star in the exact same position and rinse and repeat until we're completely done. And if it's gone well for you, hopefully your signing day looks like this. And as a 1.5-star team, we were able to land 34 out of 35 recruits total, giving us the 36th best recruiting class in the nation. But what it doesn't take into account is that out of our 34 recruits, we're going to be able to process and improve 28 of these guys on our board because they're transfers. And so I would like to argue that a 3-star in the transfer portal is not just as good as a 5-star, but they're actually better because you can make them better and you can use them this year. Now we're gonna go and change positions, and this is why we talent farm. Go into position changes and just make sure that every position has one guy that can play in each of those spots. And remember to keep your team's scheme in mind. So for example, if you run a 4-2-5, linebackers isn't as important as your defensive line and your secondary is going to be, right? So if you're a 4-2-5 scheme, maybe you get 10 free safeties, and in theory it's like, hey, why not corners? Why not strong safety? You can move those free safeties around. So if you're talent farming that free safety position, you're going to be able to backfill in position changes. And that's really important to keep in mind as we move into developing the guys, because especially on defense, we're going to be looking to increase a lot of guys' IQ, a lot of guys tackling, and specifically the secondary, just their coverage. So even if you have a box specialist guy, you're going to want to be able to improve his IQ and his coverage above his tackle ability, because next year we might come back and retroactively change him to a corner and he'll be able to perform in that position, because archetypes can change whenever you do position changes. Now, I know I've said now a lot, but this is super important. Like, this is the most important thing I can tell you in early stage rebuilds. At position change, before you go into position change, okay, go to league settings and turn off auto progress players. You'll see that you'll take a 25% hit in the SP production, but that's okay. It'll be worth it. If you don't care about the competitive settings, you can just turn it down to 0. You paid $70. Some people paid $100 for this game, and you don't even own it. It's just a license. You can do whatever you want. No gatekeeping. Have fun with the game, develop guys the way that you want to develop them, and enjoy your College Football 26 experience. I highly recommend that you by hand upgrade your players, because it will provide a much more in-depth experience for you whenever you go and play with your guys. If you're by hand developing each of these characters, you're going to know what they're good at and what they're bad at whenever you finally go in and play the game, which I think leads to a much more enjoyable experience than just letting the game develop it for you. And what you'll see over time if you do a lot of these rebuilds is that the game is kind of biased depending on what school you're in, what conference you're in, and they want to kind of make your team worse so you keep playing the game. So I would highly recommend developing your guys by hand. Now, another tip that I have just before we move on past developing your guys is that when you're upgrading players, you really want to focus on a player's archetype. For example, a pocket passing QB's overall is going to be highly dependent on IQ and accuracy. Same thing with a lurker. A lurker linebacker will still get a huge boost from run stopping, which is tackling, but they're going to get more of a boost from you increasing their pass coverage than they would if you wouldn't increase their pass rushing. So just important to keep in mind as you're developing your guys to look at their archetype and make sure that you're upgrading their different skills based off of that and not just what you would want your line to do. And so that's going to inform who you need to recruit as we come in the subsequent years. Now, once you advance the week, you want to go back to league settings and turn back on auto progress players, because you don't want to be taking that 25% hit all season long. Next thing we're going to do is whenever we move into the coming year, we're going to ask a lot of guys to transfer. This is going to do two things for you. One, it's going to make your team sim much better. And it's really going to help you with that Bud Elliott's blue chip ratio. So if you have less guys on your team, and let's say you signed 6 4-stars, if you only have 50 guys on your team, that's going to put your blue chip ratio above 10% because you have those 4 and 5 stars on your team. And that's going to help your championship contender rating. So remember, this isn't actual football. You're not an actual GM. I'm not an actual GM. I'm not an actual football coach. This is a simulation game, right? And that's why we upgrade all of our players with tackling and IQ in mind on defense, because we want those guys to be able to back up and play at any position, so you can have less guys on the roster and make sure that they can kind of play anywhere. This is really going to help you in sim, which is really going to help open guys up to come into your school. They might not be first or second on your board, but it'll make them want to come there. So after our first offseason, our overall is up to a 92 overall. If you rent or repeat this process, you're going to do well. But Let's sim the season and see how the team does. And before we do that, we want to reorder your depth chart. But before you reorder your depth chart, you're going to want to go through and redshirt guys that you do not want on the field, and then reorder your depth chart and then make sure that your best punter or kicker is doing both the kicking duties and the punting duties. Again, this will help you sim better. So the team went 13-1, and we went from a 1.5-star team to a 2.5-star team. So that's going to give us more hours in the offseason. So naturally, if you rinse and repeat this process, you'll quickly become a big school. And that is where our strategy changes slightly. Okay, so now we're on our level 100 overpowered coach, and we're in charge of the 4-star school, Florida State. Now with this team, we're going to want the very best talent. So we're going to change our strategy just a little bit from the small school. But first, let's take a look at Overpowered's coach build. I built him using the Georgia method, which is a completely different video, but all you need to know is that I genuinely believe that this is the best coach build that you can possibly get in College Football 26. So if we go back over to recruiting, our new big school strategy is going to look like this. I go to top prospects, and then I sort by position, and I put the best 10 available guys on the board. So that means the 10 guys that would be open to coming to our school. I put them on our board, and then I look to see who has the best playing time deal breaker. And so then I get rid of everyone that doesn't have that deal breaker. And then the number of guys that are left over, I scout those guys to see which ones are gems, and more specifically, which ones aren't busts. Now, you can have a 5-star that is a bust that still has elite development. So you don't always want to get rid of those guys, but it is important to note that 5-star gems are almost always going to be elite dev, elite talent. So we really want to find those guys if we can. So in the case of our QB here, we only have one guy, but that's okay because we still have the transfer portal. So we're really trying to only find elite talent out of high school that we can put onto our roster and use that talent developer perk to have our best quarterback go to the NFL and then get that guy a boost, and then he'll step in, and then we'll rinse and repeat, and the team will just become so undeniable that it'll be basically impossible to beat us in a year. Sim, no sim, it doesn't matter. You kind of run the world. And so keep in mind that once you have a full board that has the best players for every position, it doesn't really matter who you land and who you don't. So you don't even have to worry about hours. We're just going to go after the guys that we know that we can get, because everyone on this board is going to be elite for that position. And then we can use the transfer portal to backfill the guys that decided they wanted to go to a different school. And in reality, since we're a great school and we have a great coach who has elite recruiter, we're going to basically land every single one of the guys that we want. So I again like to choose the guys that I think we have the best chance to land. And since we have 800 hours, we'll be putting 65 hours on all of our guys, which means we can go after 13 of them. And again, we'll just fill in during the transfer portal the guys that we don't get. So be decisive. Don't split hours. Make sure that you bird in the hand is worth 3 recruits in the bush. Because if you go with 25, 25, 25, and you just try to stay up, Georgia's going to come in and take your guy. It's going to happen. They're a powerhouse in recruiting, and you need to be decisive to beat them. And I do want to throw this out there. I am well aware that we could play this better. There could be a more efficacious way to land guys where we could get more of the guys out of high school. But I want to let you know that this is a calculated decision because we want to farm the portal. Getting good young guys helps us build out our roster to use that talent developer archetype that we have on our coach. But we're seeking to balance the young guys and those transfer studs that other programs have developed for us. Now, it's week 2, and we already have the guys into our top 5 because of how good our coach is. So we're going to use this opportunity to get a big lead using the double soft sell method. If you don't know what the double soft sell method is, you can literally soft sell with 2 different pitches to make sure that you figure out what a guy's hard sell is. So then you can use that. And in our case, it'll be week 3 that we'll already be able to hard sell these guys with a 100% chance of guessing what it is because we implemented the double soft sell method. So now after utilizing these methods, we've got a couple of recruits signed in week number 5, and all of these extra hours are going to go towards scheduling visits with the recruits whom we're in a tight battle with. And at National Signing Day, this is who we were able to land. Also, this is a bug. This corner will wind up on our team. So the guys that we have, it's only 15 of them, but we have a #1 class in the nation, and we'll be able to get our pick of the litter in the transfer portal. With all the hours that we have, landing 20 guys, it'll be easy. So I do want to note that not all of these guys have the craziest development traits. Many of them have a leader star, but Some of them only have impact, and there's some normal dev traits in there too. But with talent developer, what becomes important is not their development trait, but their skill caps. And so 4 and 5 star guys most of the time will have much better skill caps than 3-star guys. And so their dev trait isn't going to hold them down. Just keep that in mind, that if you use talent developer, you'll have plenty of skill points. And so as long as their skill caps are good, you'll be a-okay. All right, so now we're all the way to draft results. So let's talk about what talent dev does. So you can see we had a lot of guys drafted. So let's look at DeMarcus Horn here. Since he's had a couple of guys in his position get drafted, he already has 24 skill points before we've hit progression. So we know that our guys are going to develop faster, but we've got an extra 24 skill points. So imagine a quarterback that it costs 6 points to have his accuracy go up. We're going to be able to increase his accuracy 4 times from these 24 extra skill points. So that's going to give a major boost to our younger guys. And now that we're able to go towards the portal, we can backfill in the talent that we need to be competitive year after year with the 1,350 hours that we have, that we can really invest into all these players to make sure that they play at Florida State next year. And since we filled up our board with a good amount of talent, but not too much, we've been able to really fill out our board with 4 stars and only have 2 3-stars to fill in on the back end. So we're not going to land all of these guys. And so then we'll do that backfill process with those younger 3-star guys that we want to have on our team that might have elite depth, that can really benefit from having those guys drafted before they go. And I just want to say, we do want to get a kicker. It's going to be a 2-star signing. It's not going to do much for you, but you can get like an 86 overall kicker out of the portal, and he's listed as a 2-star. Go get you a kicker every year, baby. It's free real estate. They're going to be cold. Okay, you get the best kicker in the nation for free 99, 5-finger special. It's incredible. So after the transfer portal is over with, this is what we're left with. We were able to secure the #1 recruiting class for high school and the transfer portal using the methods that we have here. Hopefully this will lead to a perfect balance that'll allow our talent developer archetype to carry us not only now, but in the future with the guys that we have on our roster. And now this is what the final roster looks like after 1 year with our big school. And just to prove a point, I didn't even use manual progression for this squad. I wanted to show you that it's not the reason that I'm able to get my teams up to a 99 overall so consistently. It's really the talent acquisition strategy that's so efficient, because you're able to get the guys to develop regardless. It might just happen faster, but you're still going to be able to get those teams up to 99 overall. It just might take a little longer if you let the game do it for you. Anyways, even as a big school, you want to make sure to ask players to transfer and that you redshirt guys that you don't want on the field. So now there's only one thing left to do. It's to go over mid-tier schools, and I've saved this for later for a reason. See, mid-tier schools are basically the exact same strategy as a small school, but you really need to think about going after big targets sometimes, and that's why I showed you the big school recruiting method before we went to mid-tier schools, because you might have the ability to land a bigger target and you might be able to fight for some guys, but it all comes down to discretion. And that's why I've saved it until this point, because using the small school method and then using the big school method, you're going to learn how to use your own discretion to decide whether or not you should or shouldn't go after a player. Because again, I can't guarantee you anything. That's the only guarantee I could give you, is I can't guarantee you a single thing. But what I can tell you is that if you use these strategies, you will be able to land really good targets at a high clip. But that is the comprehensive Dynasty guide. I genuinely hope that you enjoyed what we did here today, and I really hope that you'll be able to have better dynasties because of this, because I want to see the College Football 26 community grow. I want to see it flourish, and I want to see you guys having more fun doing your dynasties. That's all I have to say today. Peace out.